after the crash. The city-state's second airport was hosting the biennial Dubai Air Show, which has seen major aircraft orders by both the long-haul carrier Emirates and its lower-cost sister airline FlyDubai. And to give us more details, joining us on the phone line is our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibul. Siddhant, what can you tell us?
Very shocking visuals emerging from Dubai, from the Dubai Air Show, where the crash has happened. The Indian Air Force Tejas light combat aircraft has crashed. Visuals are beaming now from the spectators, especially. Remember that the Indian Air Force has a short while ago confirmed that the crash has happened. So the big question is on the safety of the pilot as well. More details are being ascertained as well. Remember, Tejas, India's indigenously made fourth-generation fighter jet, is developed by the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, and this is the second only crash known of Tejas. The accident happened when it was performing an aerial display, and we remember that India has been regularly participating at the air show. Eyewitness videos and reports show that the jet struggled during the maneuvers and followed by the loss of control that can be seen and plummeted to the ground near the airport perimeter, erupting into flames and producing very thick black smoke that can be seen from the visual. The crash site was just outside the main display area. Of course, the big question remains on the safety of the pilot. The big question is that was the pilot able to eject safely? There are, of course, questions on any other damage on the ground as well. Of course, the UAE Civil Aviation Authority, the Dubai police have secured the area with the fire crews extinguishing the blaze quickly. More details are expected as the time passes. So far, only the Indian Air Force has issued the statement.
Right, Siddhant, and we know that this incident marks the second crash involving a Tejas aircraft in less than 2 years. We know in March 2024, a Tejas fighter went down in Rajasthan's Jaisalmer, but the pilot had ejected safely in that case, and while the hope remains the same for this one as well. But do we have any information about the cause the reason which have caused this disturbing accident, of course, and the visuals that we're getting are extremely tragic. Do we have more information on that, Siddhant?
Well, essentially, we're waiting for information. The only information so far available is the crash has happened. It has been confirmed by the Indian Air Force as well. Now, of course, there will be implications as well. Tejas program has been the cornerstone of India's self-reliance in defense manufacturing, with over 35 units produced and more in order.
Right, Siddhant, and what do you think are going to be the steps forward after this tragic crash? What is the latest that you're picking on the ground?
Well, usually in cases of these crashes, there is a court of inquiry that is announced, and the focus is as to there should not be any repeat of such incidents. Now, in this particular case, this is a development that has happened a short while ago. The focus is on as to how there should not be any repeat. And in terms of focus area, the focus remains on the impact as well. What was the cause of the incident is the big question as well. Why did it happen is also the big question as well. By the time the court of inquiry comes, it will be a few days. But of course, as of now, the big focus remains on making sure that the pilot is safe. And of course, there are details which are emerging. Even as we speak, we have seen only the Indian Air Force statement as well, but we do expect the statement coming by the Indian Air Force later in the day as well, because the visuals, of course, are indeed shocking. And remember, this is a much-known air show. Dubai Air Show has seen participation of global bodies as well, from aviation sector, and of course also the spectators who have been participating in it as well. But essentially, we know that from the past experience, I can say that such accidents are rare in terms of high-performing jets and also in terms of such air shows as well. But clearly, I can say that this is going to dominate the international headline because there are many people present there, and this is being live reported by many people across the world because Dubai Air Show is a big air show that happens every 2 years.
Right. And of course, we'll continue to track the latest developments for our viewers. But for now, thank you so much for getting us all those details. That was our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibul, on the phone line. And with that, it's time for us to slip into a very short break. But don't go anywhere. More news and updates will follow on the other side. Stay tuned. You're watching Beyond World is One.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.
This week on the West Asia Post, Israel's scale of strikes on Gaza have drained global TNT, leaving NATO short and Europe struggling to arm Ukraine. Iran's nuclear scientists and Russian officials have held 2 secret meetings. Is Moscow helping Tehran build nuclear weapons? Also on the show, Israel strikes are deepening in Lebanon. Refugee camps have been struck. Is the Israel-Lebanon front edging towards another war?
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Africa hosts the G20 for the first time, and Johannesburg becomes the world's power stage. 42 countries will gather and participate for G20 Leaders Summit. 20 G20 members, excluding the United States, 16 guest countries, and 6 countries representing regional economic communities in Africa, the Caribbean, and the East Asia. WION will bring you all the latest developments from G20 Leaders Summit from Johannesburg, South Africa.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Beyond World is One. My name is Mohammed Saleh, and let's start this broadcast by taking a quick look as to what is making headlines at this hour. A Tejas fighter jet of the Indian Air Force crashes at an air show in Dubai. A Russian drone strike in Zaporizhia kills about 5 people and injures 3 others. The strike set ablaze a market region and also the vehicles in the area. And the Russian Foreign Ministry says that Moscow has not officially received any peace plan on Ukraine from the United States. And the Israeli army says that it has killed about 5 Palestinian militants in the southern part of the Gaza Strip in an area that is under its control. Now, the incident has come after 2 consecutive days of deadly bombings by the Israelis, in which at least 33 Palestinians have been killed in a span of 24 hours. A new Fox News poll has revealed that about 60% of the Americans are struggling financially. 76% call the economic conditions to be negative, despite the official recovery claims. The recovery for who, they ask. The Wall Street's records mean nothing when working families have to choose between eating and heating this winter. And a magnitude 5.7 earthquake strikes Bangladesh, claiming at least 5 lives and sending the residents in Dhaka rushing out of the buildings and onto the streets. At about 19 wickets fall on a thrilling first day of the Ashes in Perth. Mitchell Starc takes 7 wickets as England are bundled out for 172, and Ben Stokes stars for the visitors with 5 scalps to ensure that Australia end the day at 123 for 9. The White House is defending the US-backed peace plan for Ukraine, saying that the proposal is actually good for both Russia and Ukraine, despite concerns that it mirrors several of Moscow's long-standing demands.
But the president supports this plan. It's a good plan for both Russia and Ukraine, and we believe that it should be acceptable to both sides, and we're working very hard to get it done.
The proposal was drafted by Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and the Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and according to the US officials, it was made after consultations with both Ukrainian and Russian representatives. And according to the draft obtained by Axios, Ukraine will have to give up the eastern Donbas region and recognize Crimea, Luhansk and Donetsk as parts of Russia. Now, the plan limits Ukraine's armed forces to 600,000 personnel and also bars it from joining the NATO military alliance, while making it eligible for an EU membership. Now, furthermore, the NATO troops will be prohibited from being stationed in the country. Instead, European fighter jets will be based in neighboring Poland to provide air cover, and additionally, Ukraine will agree to be a non-nuclear state and withdraw from the part of the Donetsk Oblast that it currently controls and hold elections within the next 100 days. Ukraine will also get a global package to rebuild itself, including a development fund to invest in fast-growing industries like technology, data centers and artificial intelligence. The southern regions of Kherson and Zaporizhia will be frozen along the current front lines, and the Zaporizhia nuclear plant will come under the supervision of International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, with electricity being split equally between both Russia and Ukraine. Now, Russia, on the other hand, will be reintegrated into the global economy. It will see the sanctions be lifted and regain entry into the G8. Now, Moscow will establish long-term economic cooperation with the United States in the sectors including energy, mining and artificial intelligence. The proposal also states that Russia will not prevent Ukraine from using the Dnieper River for commercial activities, and agreements will be reached on the free transport of grain across the Black Sea. According to the draft, Russia will have to agree to legally binding non-aggression pledge and face a decisive, coordinated military response if it violates the ceasefire or re-enters Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has insisted that the agreement must protect Ukrainian sovereignty and dignity. Now, Zelensky is in fact expecting to discuss the proposal directly with Donald Trump in the coming days. Now, Zelensky met with a Pentagon delegation led by the U.S. Army Secretary Daniel Driscoll, who delivered the draft plan in writing. Now, Ukraine's government is saying that it is willing to work with Washington on the adjustments, but is stressing that the red lines remain, especially regarding territorial recognition. Now, the Israelis have launched more air bombings over the Gaza Strip, killing at least 5 more Palestinians, including a 1-year-old girl child in Khan Yunis. The total death toll from the Israeli bombings over the Palestinian territory over a span of the last 12 hours has now gone up to 33. Now, the attack has also raised some serious concerns, with ceasefire mediator Qatar warning that these renewed bombings by the Israelis threatens to undermine the fragile week-long truce between Israel and Hamas. Now, post the ceasefire, at least about 300 people have been killed in the Gaza Strip in the Israeli attacks. Now, the IDF has also released some footage allegedly recovered from the camera of a Hamas operative showing armed members of the group operating at an abandoned elementary school in northern Gaza. And according to the IDF, the shaft leads to a Hamas tunnel that is now part of a wider underground network in Beit Hanun. In another development, an Israeli hostage released last month after more than 2 years in captivity has claimed that he was sexually assaulted while being held hostage by Hamas. Now, this, in fact, is the first such allegation that's been made publicly by an Israeli hostage against Hamas. And the families of the Israeli hostages, both freed and deceased, have set up a wall of questions for the 7th of October inquiry, seeking transparency about the events surrounding the Hamas attack. Now, this initiative comes amidst public outrage over the treatment of hostages in the Gaza Strip. About 60 delegations had gathered in Brussels on Thursday to tackle Gaza's reconstruction, security and governance challenges. And at the forum, the EU has also urged the Palestinian Authority to scrap its Martyrs Fund and to overhaul the textbooks. The EU has further sought more international support to stabilize the Palestinian finances, while also acknowledging the Palestinian Authority's progress on reforms amidst what it describes as exceptional circumstances. Furthermore, the Israeli anti-settler organization Peace Now has denounced the creation of a new settlement, an illegal Israeli settlement in the south of the occupied West Bank. Now, the organization has said that this new Israeli settlement is intended to choke the Palestinian town of Beit Sahur and to block its development. In addition to this, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, has described the recent Israeli violence in the West Bank as terrorism after a Palestinian Christian town was attacked by these Israelis. He said that the attackers happen to be mostly youth who are angry and disaffected, and he criticized these illegal Israeli settlers as thugs. Now, 47 Palestine Action supporters were arrested in London for holding a protest in support of the banned pro-Palestine group. They agitated outside of the Justice Ministry, holding up banners that read, "I oppose genocide," and therefore they were arrested. Now, in another development, the United Nations has called the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's recent visit to the buffer zone on the Syrian territory to be very concerning, and urging for the respect for the 1974 disengagement agreement. Meanwhile, funerals were held for 11 Palestinians who were killed in the Israeli bombings in a refugee camp in southern Lebanon's Sidon. The Israeli military has claimed that the strike targeted Hamas members preparing for an attack. However, according to the local reports, the strike targeted a center inside the crowded camp, leading to the death of about 11 and injuring 4 others. Now, the American President Donald Trump ignited a firestorm today, publicly accusing a group of Democratic veteran lawmakers of sedition punishable by death after they released a video urging the U.S. military members to uphold the Constitution and to refuse what they called illegal orders. The 90-second video that was posted from Senator Elisa Slotkin's account featured 6 lawmakers. Now, Slotkin, Arizona Senator Mark Ely, and Representatives Jason Crow, Chris DeLuzio, Maggie Goodlander, and Chrissy Houlihan. Addressing the U.S. service members, Slotkin noted that they are under enormous pressure and they must stand up for the laws and the Constitution. Now, Trump later reposted the video, adding his own commentary, sparking another flashpoint.
I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence. We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
The lawmakers did not specify which orders they were referring to. However, Trump has deployed the National Guard to multiple U.S. cities, often against local officials' wishes to curb the alleged rampant unrest, as he describes it. Abroad, he has ordered for strikes on alleged drug smuggling vessels in the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific, resulting in over 80 deaths. Now, the American President Donald Trump raised on Truth Social the possibility of the death penalty for 6 Democrat lawmakers who've urged the military to refuse orders from the administration. He's calling them traitors and has accused them of sedition. Now, slamming Donald Trump's death threats against her and other lawmakers, the Michigan senator and the former CIA officer Elissa Slotkin, in a video post, said that she refuses to be intimidated and will continue to speak up for her country.
This is about who we are as Americans and how we're going to engage with people who we disagree with. I would hope that people of all backgrounds, Democrat, Republican, Independent, would agree that threatening death for people you disagree with is beyond the pale of who we are as Americans. I refuse to believe that we're going to use fear and intimidation against people we disagree with, and I'm not going to be forced away from speaking up on behalf of my country. I swore an oath to the Constitution many times, most recently less than a year ago as a senator. To the Constitution, not to any one man, not to any one president.
The Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer condemned Donald Trump's call for execution of Democratic lawmakers, calling it a deadly, serious threat.
The last 41 days have exposed the depths of Donald Trump's cruelty. He shut the government down longer than any president in American history, took innocent kids, veterans, federal workers as hostages, political hostages, all because he refuses to do anything to fix the health care crisis, and instead keeps pushing policies that will cut people's coverage even more.
The White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt later walked back Trump's suggestion, saying that the president did not want to see the members of the Congress be executed. She lashed out at the lawmakers, asking why isn't anyone talking about what the members of the Congress who put out a video are doing to encourage and to incite violence.
The sanctity of our military rests on the chain of command. And if that chain of command is broken, it can lead to people getting killed. It can lead to chaos. And that's what these members of Congress who swore an oath to abide by the Constitution are essentially encouraging.
Catastrophic flooding continues across central Vietnam, where at least about 41 people have been killed and tens of thousands have been forced from their homes. The days of relentless rain have submerged entire neighborhoods and triggered deadly landslides and crippled transport links, and more heavy rain is forecast. The rescuers spent the day pulling the stranded residents from rooftops as floodwaters swallowed the streets and homes across 6 provinces. The popular coastal destinations like the NHA Trang were almost unrecognizable, with entire city blocks under water and cars being submerged. The business owners said that they were powerless as the water continued to rise rapidly. One restaurant owner in Nha Trang reported nearly 1 meter of flooding in his shop, while his staff were dealing with 2 meters of water inside their homes. The state media showed the rescue crews in boats smashing through windows and cutting open roofs in the Gia Lai and Dak Lak to reach people trapped by the fast-moving floods. Now, Vietnam's Environment Ministry has said that more than 52,000 homes are flooded and nearly 62,000 people have been evacuated, and almost about 1 million customers have been left without power. Several major roads remain blocked by landslides, complicating the rescue operations, and landslides around the Harlan tourist city of Dalat have also proven to be pretty deadly, with some areas receiving as much as about 600 millimeters of rain in just a few days. Now, hotels have reported that almost all the tourists have cancelled their stays and most routes into the city are now shut. The rail services between northern and southern Vietnam have been suspended, leaving travellers stranded as the floodwaters rise along the key lines. The Deputy Prime Minister Ho Chok Dong has ordered the army, the police and the emergency forces to carry out large-scale evacuations in 3 of the hardest-hit provinces. In Queen Hon, the rescuers delivered food and water to the flooded hospitals, where the doctors and patients had survived for days on instant noodles. The rivers across the region have surged to record highs, including the Ba River in the Dak Lak and the Kai River in Khan Hoa. The officials have warned conditions could worsen with the already saturated ground unable to absorb more rain. The floods follow a series of deadly landslides on mountain passes. At Khan Li, a massive collapse buried a passenger bus, killing about 6 people and injuring 19 others. Rescue teams struggled for several hours to reach the scene as fresh slides cut off both ends of the road. A separate landslide nearby killed 1 person and left another person missing after a hut was swept away. Now, heavy rains linked to Typhoon Kalmegi continue to pound central Vietnam, with some areas forecast to exceed 85 centimeters of rain by the middle of the week. Flooding and landslides have also severed the roads in Hue, isolating several villages. Vietnam faces some of the worst climate-driven flooding in the world, with scientists warning that warming oceans and heavier rains are accelerating the frequency of these disasters. And the authorities say the death toll could rise as search teams are working through the treacherous conditions. The Jeff Bezos' space company Blue Origin has announced plans for a bigger and a more powerful variant of its New Glenn rocket, a super heavy design that is meant to compete directly with SpaceX's Falcon fleet and future Starship missions. The new rocket, called New Glenn 9x4, will feature more engines that produce more thrust. The announcement by Blue Origin has come just days after the first fully commercial mission of the original New Glenn. And according to the company, the 9x4 variant of the rocket will place the company in the Super Heavy Rocket League. The rocket will feature 9 engines on its first stage and 4 on its second, an upgrade from the current 7x2 configuration. The company has described this as the next chapter in rocket's evolution and said that the iterative design means that the new variant can be built pretty quickly. The Blue Origin has not revealed a timeline for the Super Heavy rocket's first launch. It has said that both rocket variants will operate side by side, and the company has said that both rockets will cater to a broad range of missions, from mega constellation satellites to lunar and deep space exploration, and even national security payloads such as the Golden Dome program. Meanwhile, other US launch companies, including the SpaceX, Rocket Lab and United Launch Alliance, are also drawing up their plans for bigger and more powerful rockets that can lift more satellites into orbit. Blue Origin CEO Dave Lim posted on digital renderings of the super heavy New Glenn 9x4 on X. The renderings show the new rocket towering even above NASA's iconic Saturn V. The image also reveals a much larger payload fairing and a rocket significantly taller than the original New Glenn design. With the 9x4, Blue Origin is positioning itself for a far more competitive role in the global launch market. The former English spinner Monty Panesar has fired back at Australia's stand-in captain Steve Smith after a bizarre swipe on the eve of the first Ashes Test in Perth. The Smith, in fact, mocked Panesar's infamous celebrity mastermind appearance, but Panesar said that the real mistake was made on the field and not on the quiz show. Now, Steve Smith, during the pre-match conference of the first Test, had ridiculed Monty Panesar. The Australian had referenced Panesar's 2019 celebrity mastermind performance, where the 43-year-old had struggled in the general knowledge round. Now, Smith said that anyone who thinks that Athens is in Germany or Oliver Twist is a season should not be taken seriously. But Monty Panesar has now hit back. He's pointed to the 2018 ball tampering scandal in South Africa that led to Steve Smith's removal as Australia's captain. Now, Panesar told Radio 5 Live, and I am quoting him here, "I made my mistakes on the quiz show. He made his on the cricketing field." The war of words began after Panesar suggested that England should try to make Smith feel guilty about his role in the Sandpaper Gate incident. Now, Smith, who's been taunted by fans for many, many years, has responded by calling Panisar's TV clip to be pretty comical. Miss Mexico Fatima Bosch has been crowned as Miss Universe 2025. The 25-year-old clinched the title at the 74th edition of the pageant that was held in Bangkok. And India's Manika Vishwakarma, however, missed out on a spot in the top 12. The beauty queens from around the globe lit up the stage for the grand finale of the 74th Miss Universe that was hosted in Thailand. During the crowning moment, Fatima Bosch appeared to be moved. Her victory comes in the heels of weeks of controversy surrounding this year's competition. At a pre-event ceremony in Thailand, senior Miss Universe official Nawat Itsagarisil had publicly criticized Fatima Bosch for allegedly skipping a sponsorship shoot. The moment escalated when he reportedly called her dumb and asked the security to escort her out. Now, following the incident, more than a dozen other contestants, including the reigning Miss Universe, staged a walkout in solidarity with her. Now, Fatima Bosch later addressed the incident, saying, and I quote her here, "What your director just did was not respectful. The world needs to see this because we are empowered women and no one can silence us." Now, the event now faces accusations of being rigged, with many questioning the crowning of Miss Mexico after the walkout controversy. The 25-year-old has already carved a place in Mexico's pageant history. She's the first woman from Tabasco to hold the national crown. And Bosch is a fashion design graduate. She brings together creativity, charisma, and a strong voice for causes. With the pageant now wrapped and the new queen crowned, all eyes will now turn to how Fatima Bosch will shape her years ahead. Now, for the next year, Puerto Rico has been announced as the 2026 host nation for the pageant. A new art installation by the Brazilian artist Mundano and Greenpeace uses ashes from major environmental disasters to highlight the forest destruction and also urge the world leaders at COP30 to adopt a 5-year plan to halt and to reverse deforestation by the year 2030. We'll leave you with these images. Thanks for watching.
When you write something that we need to rise for forest, we are on the Amazon and we need to talk about all the forests across the globe that are becoming ashes. They are getting burning wine for the profit. But when you burn the forest, we are burning ourselves because we are also nature. So this is a self-destruction.
Que ninguém mais aguenta a gente ver.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesaria at 100.
Africa hosts the G20 for the first time, and Johannesburg becomes the world's power stage. 42 countries will gather and participate for G20 Leaders Summit. 20 G20 members, excluding the United States, 16 guest countries, and 6 countries representing regional economic communities in Africa, the Caribbean, and the East Asia. WION will bring you all the latest developments from G20 Leaders Summit from Johannesburg, South Africa.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Beyond World is One. My name is Diksha Bisla. Let's start with the headlines. A Tejas fighter jet of the Indian Air Force crashes at the Dubai Air Show. The IAF confirms that the pilot has died in the accident and the cause is being investigated. Russian drone strike on Zaporizhzhia kills 5 people and injures 3 others. The strike set ablaze a market region and a vehicle in the area. Russian Foreign Ministry says Moscow has not officially received any peace plan from Ukraine from the US. The M23 rebel group says that the peace deal it signed with DR Congo government is incomplete as fighting continues in the region. The Congolese government and M23 signed a peace framework on November 15th to stop the fighting that has killed thousands of people. Israeli army says it killed 5 Palestinian militants in the southern Gaza Strip in an area that's under its control. The incident comes after 2 consecutive days of deadly airstrikes in the territory, with the toll rising over 33. Taiwan lifts all restrictions on food imports from Japan with immediate effect. Taipei moves come amid a growing diplomatic spat between Tokyo and Beijing over Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi's comments on protecting Taiwan. The UAE announces that it will invest up to $50 billion in Canada during a visit to Abu Dhabi by Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. "19 wickets fall on a thrilling first day of the Ashes in Perth. Mitchell Starc takes 7 wickets as England are bowled out for 172, while Ben Stokes stars for the visitors with 5 scalps to ensure Australia ends the day on 123 for 9. All right, top focus on Beyond at this hour. Coveted fighter jet of the Indian Air Force, the HAL Tejas plane, crashed during an air show in Dubai. Well, the fighter jet crashed during a flying demonstration at the air show, sending a plume of thick smoke over Maktoum International Airport as crowds looked on. The Indian Air Force released a statement saying that the tragic accident claimed the life of the pilot on board, adding that it regrets the loss of life and stands firmly with the bereaved family in this time of grief. The aircraft, a single-seat light combat aircraft developed by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, went down at around 2:10 p.m. local time. The crash occurred during the biennial Dubai Air Show, one of the world's largest aviation exhibitions. The incident marks the second crash involving a Tejas aircraft in less than 2 years. In March 2024, a Tejas fighter went down in Rajasthan's Jaisalmer, the first such accident in the aircraft's 23-year history since its maiden flight in 2001. The pilot in 2024 crash had ejected safely. And for more, joining us live on the phone line is our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibal. Siddhant, what do we know so far about the sequence of events leading up to the crash?
Well, indeed, a shocking development. The Indian Air Force has confirmed fatality and has extended condolences as well. Now, essentially, we know that from the visual, it is clear that the crash happened and there was no time for ejection as well. And we know that immediately after that, the Dubai media office in a statement said that they responded to the incident and were present on the ground. Now, Tejas program has been the cornerstone of India's self-reliance in defense manufacturing, with over 35 units being produced and more on the order. This is the second known Tejas crash in recent years. The first was in 2024 during a training. And of course, this incident is, of course, indeed shocking and happening at the Dubai Air Show as well. Visuals, of course, being beamed across the world of the incident. Now, of course, focus is on what led to the crash. The Indian Air Force has announced a court of inquiry on the incident.
Absolutely, Siddhant. Thank you so much for getting us all those details. That was our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibal, joining us on the phone line. It has been 11 days since the terror attack in India's capital, Delhi. Investigations are still underway, but some new information has been coming to light. Sources say that the police have recovered hundreds of deleted videos from the phones of the doctors who were arrested in the case. The phone belonging to Dr. Muzammil Shakil is said to contain about 200 videos. It was his arrest that led the police to a 2,900 kg haul of the explosive material in Faridabad just hours before the Delhi blast. Well, many of the videos recovered from his phone reportedly contain hate speeches by terrorists such as Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar and ISIS-affiliated fighters. But that's not all. Reports say that about 80 videos of Muzammil Shakil's phone were about terrorism training, bomb making and research on chemicals. There were also videos showing religious sites and crowded markets in places like Delhi, Mumbai, Uttar Pradesh and other locations. Possibly reconnaissance of potential targets. But sources have also revealed that a taxi driver was detained by India's National Investigation Agency. He is said to have had this grinder in his phone, and it is suspected that Muzammil used the machine to grind urea to then use in explosives. Now, this do-it-yourself DIY approach to radicalization and terrorism is likely to concern authorities. Though sources say that the terror module also had outside help, both Muzammil and the Delhi bomber Umarun Nabi reportedly went to Turkey in 2022. There, they met an ISIS commander at the behest of Jaish-e-Mohammed. The Syrian ISIS terrorist is said to have given Muzammil and Umar bomb-making training. Now, the police are yet to release an official report on their findings. More details are likely to emerge in the days to come. But already, the DIY nature of this attack raises grave concerns about future threats. And joining us live on the broadcast is Sanjeev Krishan Sood. He's a former Additional Director General of the Border Security Force. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the broadcast.
Thank you.
Mr. Sood, how do you look at this new revelation that terrorists are now using this DIY method, do-it-yourself videos, where basically terrorists are watching videos and making explosives and planning terror attacks?
This is an extremely serious development. And by watching these videos, anyone in possession of explosive material can make explosive and use it wherever it wants. The explosive being freely available at many places. For example, in the mining sector, it is available. The ammonium nitrate also is available there. So these are dual purpose explosives which are diverted to these kind of heinous activities, which is a very dangerous thing to happen. We therefore need to ensure that whatever explosive material is available in various sectors is properly accounted for. And if even one explosive, one RDX slab or one PK slab or even half a kg of ammonium nitrate is missing, the store in charges should be taken to task and proper inquiry should be conducted. So this is an extremely serious matter, and our intelligence agencies and security agencies must take it very seriously and follow up on this particular issue.
Right, Mr. Sood. And how do you think the security agencies will tackle this new menace as these new chilling details continue to trickle in?
Right. So firstly, I think we have these do-yourself videos are available freely on YouTube and other apps. So therefore, what firstly the authorities can do is ban these videos for being shown in India. That is one possibility. Maybe some law will have to be made for this. One can do this. Number two, as I said earlier, the explosive available at the mining sites or anywhere in India should be properly accounted for. And the law relating to purchase and sale and distribution of explosive must be very strictly followed. See, the other day I was listening to Mr. Asthana, the previous Delhi Commissioner of Police. He said there's a law which prohibits sale and purchase of ammonium nitrate, which was brought up, which was made sometimes in early 20s. I mean, if the security agencies are following those laws properly, if they are keeping track of the sale and purchase and movement of these explosive material, it can be controlled. Then it should not fall into the hands of such militant and terrorist people.
Absolutely, Mr. Sood. And of course, the readily accessible information that is out there and also the material is a matter of grave concern. But there's also another disturbing trend that these homegrown terrorists who are mentioned by handlers who are sitting in different parts of the world. Now, how do you think the agencies are going to deal with that?
So I think we must get into intelligence cooperation agreement with various countries, and the information exchange should take place at regular intervals, and we also must keep track of our known people. See, one person who is said to be in touch with this person from whose telephone the videos have been deleted is known to have operated in Bangalore, and he absconded from there in 2012 or something. Now he's said to be somewhere in Syria or someplace. If we were keeping track of the activities of this kind of person, we could have avoided. We could have avoided the incident that happened at Lal Killa and later on subsequently at Nagaon. So intelligence cooperation and also improving our own intelligence capabilities is extremely important. We must somehow also find ways to enter the various WhatsApp and what is the other app, the Telegram group, the Telegram app of these militant organizations, so that we know what is happening. I think intelligence agencies have ways and means to do it. So intelligence collection and intelligence cooperation with other countries is extremely important in order to detect and take preemptive action in these matters.
Of course, Mr. Sood, those were some very valid points there. Lots to think about, but for now, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast and sharing your valuable perspective with us.
Thank you so much.
All right, and moving on, 4 staff members of a school in Delhi have been suspended after an FIR was filed in the case of an alleged death by suicide of a class 10 student. Well, according to the reports, the 16-year-old student reportedly died after jumping from the Rajendra Place metro station in Delhi after leaving his school on Tuesday. A handwritten suicide note recovered from the student's bag explicitly named the teachers, alleging continuous harassment and humiliation. Now, this prompted massive protests by parents and students at the school premises, demanding action against the accused. The note also contained a heartbreaking apology to his family and a final wish for justice. Following the tragic incident, the principal of St. Columba School has issued a suspension order against 4 staff members, which included the headmistress, coordinator and 2 teachers. They have been instructed to remain available for official communications, but are barred from visiting the school premises or interacting with students, staff or parents while the investigation is underway. Now, Delhi government's Director of Education has set up a high-level inquiry committee to probe the death of the student. The 5-member panel has been directed to conduct a thorough, objective and time-bound inquiry. They have been asked to submit a comprehensive report within 3 days, covering factual findings, observations, conclusions and specific recommendations. Meanwhile, the victim's family returned to Sangli in the state of Maharashtra to perform his last rites. The teen was cremated in his ancestral village. And speaking to reporters, the student's father, he recounted how his son had been repeatedly singled out and insulted over minor issues for months.
जाती पहले ही इसको बोला था कि तेरा डीसी निकाल करके पेरेंट्स को बुला के दे, तब से ये परेशान था कि मेरे बेटे ने जो सुसाइड नोट लिखा है उसमें ये सारा लिखा है कि मेरे को किस किस टीचर्स ने नाम भी लिखे हुए हैं, लेकिन सबसे लास्ट में जो लिखा है बड़े अक्षरों में वही बहुत दर्दनाक है कि मैं चाहता हूँ कि मेरी तरफ और कोई बच्चा ऐसा ना करे, इसलिए ये जो टीचर ने किया जरूर सजा मिलनी चाहिए। इसलिए मैं सब पेरेंट्स की तरफ से यही चाहता हूँ कि इस टीचर्स के ऊपर आत्महत्या के तो गुना दाखिल किया जाए और इनको अरेस्ट किया जाए।
At least 5 people, including a child, have been killed and 100 left injured after a powerful earthquake hit Bangladesh. Now, according to the US Geological Survey, a magnitude 5.7 earthquake struck Bangladesh at 10:38 a.m. local time near the city of Narsingdi, which is about 33 kilometers from the densely populated capital Dhaka and at a depth of 10 kilometers. Authorities say the quake led to the damage of several buildings in the many areas, including the capital. Residents rushed out of their homes as concrete structures shook and some makeshift ones even collapsed. Bangladesh's chief advisor, Mohammad Yunus, has expressed grief over the reports of deaths and injuries in various districts of the country, the collapse of houses and other quake-related accidents. He wished a speedy recovery to the injured and has directed all relevant departments to intensify search operations and rescue operations in the affected areas. Now, tremors were also felt in eastern states in neighboring India that border Bangladesh, but there were no immediate reports of major damage in either country. Now, tremors were reported in Kolkata and several parts of northeast India, such as Guwahati, Agartala, and Shillong. In other news, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is in the eye of a storm over alleged mishandling of the COVID pandemic under his leadership. A damning report by a public inquiry says that Boris Johnson oversaw a toxic, chaotic, and dithering response to the COVID pandemic with a delay to locking the country down, resulting in about 23,000 more deaths. Well, the report has found that the UK government's COVID response was too little, too late. It says that Boris Johnson failed to grasp the calamity facing the country and delayed crucial action in early 2020.
Also, the failure to lock down earlier may have cost lives. Had the lockdown been imposed 1 week earlier than the 23rd of March, the evidence suggests that the number of deaths in England alone in the first wave up until the 1st of July 2020 would have been reduced by 48%. That is approximately 23,000 fewer deaths.
The public report says that the first national lockdown was imposed too late and that 23,000 lives could have been saved if it had been announced just 1 week earlier. It adds that draconian lockdowns could have been avoided entirely if ministers had acted faster in February 2020. The inquiry blames a toxic, sexist and chaotic culture at the heart of government, led in part by Dominic Cummings, which the report says undermined the Prime Minister's authority. While taking on Johnson, Baroness Hallett, who led the inquiry, says that Johnson did not seek to restrain Cummings, nor did he exercise proper leadership in rectifying the toxic and chaotic culture adversely affecting decision-making. Well, Hallett in the report says that Downing Street was riddled with fear, suspicion and distrust. In fact, Boris Johnson's tenure as Prime Minister ended in July 2022, partly due to the Partygate scandal, in which he was found guilty of breaking COVID-19 rules by attending a gathering to celebrate his birthday.
The very least the public is entitled to expect is that those making the rules will abide by them. Across the UK, there were instances and allegations of rule breaking by ministers and advisors that caused huge distress and undermined the confidence of the public in their governments. Finally, under this heading, there was a toxic and chaotic culture at the heart of the UK government, and the relationship between ministers in Northern Ireland was poor. This kind of culture is detrimental to good decision-making.
The report criticizes then Health Secretary Matt Hancock and top official Chris Wormald for failing to correct misleading claims about the government's preparedness. Overall, the inquiry says thousands of the UK's 227,000 COVID deaths were avoidable, adding that an earlier lockdown could have cut first wave deaths by 48%. The report says that the lockdown undoubtedly saved lives but left lasting scars in society, disrupting childhood, damaging the economy and delaying non-COVID treatment. The COVID-bereaved Families for Justice group says the findings show Johnson put his political reputation ahead of public safety. The report makes 19 key recommendations and warns that without urgent reform, the UK risks repeating the same mistakes. And these recommendations include ensuring that decisions and their implications are clearly communicated to the public, need for greater parliamentary scrutiny of the use of emergency powers, as well as improved consideration in emergency of the impact that decisions might have on those most at risk. Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the government will carefully consider the findings and respond soon. The UK recorded more than 230,000 deaths from COVID, a similar death rate to the US states and Italy, but higher than elsewhere in Western Europe, and it is still recovering from the economic consequences. US President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance were not invited to Thursday's funeral service of former Vice President Dick Cheney. Well, former U.S. leaders, lawmakers, and other dignitaries gathered at Washington's National Cathedral to remember Dick Cheney. Guests included former President Joe Biden and George W. Bush, as well as former Vice President Kamala Harris and Mike Pence, who served as Vice President in Trump's first term. But US President Donald Trump was absent at the memorial service. Trump had also not expressed condolences to Cheney's family. Reports suggest that the US president was not on the funeral's guest list, given the relations between the two leaders. Cheney originally endorsed Trump in 2016, but he joined the likes of Mitt Romney and Trump's former Vice President Mike Pence in refusing to endorse him in 2024. Now, Cheney's split from Trump came after the January 6th attack on the Capitol by his supporters. Cheney had criticized Trump's false claims of victory in the 2020 presidential election and had also endorsed Trump's opponent, Democrat Kamala Harris, in the 2024 election. Well, during the 2024 election campaigning, Cheney had said that there was never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. All right, now let's take a look at what is new in the world of entertainment. Canadian actor Spencer Lofranco has died at the age of 33. Authorities have confirmed that the circumstances surrounding his death are under investigation. Lofranco, who showed promise early in his career, was best known for his roles in At Middleton and Jamesy Boy. News of his passing has left fans and stars shocked, with tributes pouring in across social media. A setback for Wicked Promotions. Ariana Grande has tested positive for COVID-19. The singer shared a photo and a message on her Instagram story confirming her diagnosis. The news comes days after she missed multiple interviews at the New York premiere of the film. Her co-star Cynthia Erivo also revealed that she's been unwell and has temporarily lost her voice. K-pop group Hyphen, along with their label Belift Lab, has donated $68,200 to support flood relief efforts in the Philippines. The donation, channeled through Hope Bridge Korea and the Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation, will support recovery and rebuilding in affected communities. The first trailer for the Hunger Games Sunrise on the Reaping is finally out. The new chapter in the blockbuster franchise takes audiences back 24 years before the original film. The movie follows young Hamish Abernathy as he is chosen to compete in the 50th Hunger Games based on the best-selling novel. The film is set to hit the theatres on November 20th, 2026.
Twice the glory. It's time. That's the 50th Hunger Games.
And India's Oscar entry, Homebound, directed by Neeraj Gewan, is set for its OTT debut today. The critically acclaimed film, starring Ishan Khattar, Vishal Jetwa and Janhvi Kapoor, will stream in 190 countries, bringing the acclaimed drama to a global audience. All right, and with that, it's time for us to slip into a very short break, but don't go anywhere. Coming up on Business Insights, we'll get you more on how Wall Street is reacting with the tech sell-off and should you stay invested or pivot out. All this and more coming up on the other side. Stay tuned, you're watching Beyond World is One.
YO1 Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to YO1 Health Resort. Make your reservation at yo1.com.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Africa hosts the G20 for the first time, and Johannesburg becomes the world's power stage. 42 countries will gather and participate for G20 Leaders Summit. 20 G20 members, excluding the United States, 16 guest countries, and 6 countries representing regional economic communities in Africa, the Caribbean, and the East Asia. WION will bring you all the latest developments from G20 Leaders Summit from Johannesburg, South Africa.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
This week on the West Asia Post, Israel's scale of strikes on Gaza have drained global TNT, leaving NATO short and Europe struggling to arm Ukraine. Iran's nuclear scientists and Russian officials have held 2 secret meetings. Is Moscow helping Tehran build nuclear weapons? Also on the show, Israel strikes are deepening in Lebanon. Refugee camps have been struck. Is the Israel-Lebanon front edging towards another war?
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radhi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World is One with me, Diksha Bisla. And this is Business Insights, a show where we cut through the noise and get you the latest from the world of business. Let's start the show with a quick look at the headlines. Indian stocks slide on rupee weakness but close above psychological levels. The Nifty closes above 26,000 points. The Sensex closes above 85,000 points. European markets under selling pressure as global volatility hit tech stocks especially hard. UK and German stocks among worst performers in the region. Volatility hits crude markets. Hopes of a peace deal in Ukraine sends crude oil prices tumbling over 2%. Brent trades around $62 a barrel. US oil trades around $57 a barrel. Gold loses its shine as the US dollar rises. Other precious metals underperform. Gold, now silver, is the worst performer, down around 4%. Indian rupee sinks to record lows as the US dollar rallies. The Indian currency now trades at 89.46 against the dollar. Investors who witnessed the recent slide in US tech stocks this week are increasingly asking whether it is wise to stay invested or pivot out. Well, the sharp decline on Thursday highlights three key considerations: elevated valuations, policy risk, and the enduring growth story of tech. Well, experts suggest that many major tech sectors, including the likes of Nvidia, carry lofty valuations. They add that some others that have ridden the AI wave have valuations that are detached from fundamentals. High valuation means large downside risk if growth disappoints. Analysts also note that macro tailwinds are less certain. Fading hopes of a rate cut by the Fed puts increased pressure on growth-focused stocks. But despite the turbulence, major brokerages and analysts suggest the longer-term story for the tech sector remains intact. Firms such as Fidelity Investments see technology as well-positioned for 2025 and beyond, thanks to structural innovation in cloud, AI, and semiconductors. Other analysts who back the tech sector's potential growth curve are calling the recent weakness a short-term blip rather than a shift in trend. So what does this mean for small investors? Experts say it's wise to keep a clear line between valuation and risk and say long-term stock ownership can ride out the temporary volatility in high-growth sectors like tech. The dollar has gained significantly over most of its peers. The greenback's rally is more than what the swing in rate differentials can justify. So while a December Federal Reserve rate cut has clearly decreased in probability, there are downside risks for the greenback. Stock markets cleared the key hurdles of Nvidia's earnings release this week, but the post-earnings rally fade on Thursday. Wall Street stocks are still down in November as valuation concerns are seemingly on the rise. The S&P 500 erased more than $1.5 trillion in less than 2 hours of trading on Thursday. That reflected about $15 loss per minute for 100 minutes trade. The craziest part? There wasn't a single material headline for S&P 500's worst November since 2008. The recent risk-off move lent the dollar some safe haven support, but the US currency remains primarily an extension of Fed expectations. Hawkish Fed minutes of the October meeting added to dollars allure. Several FOMC members were against the decision to cut rates, and many expected a hold in December. This confirms that Fed boss Jerome Powell's hawkish presser was representative of a good chunk of the committee. Delayed September data showed US jobs growth picked up following a decline in prior months. While those data are backward-looking, stock and bond investments seem to be picking the parts of the job release they like. They put the latest dollar rally at risk even as lack of data tests Fed's resilience to cut. Wednesday marked the beginning of a new phase in the big crypto meltdown of 2025. Bitcoin has now extended that crash to hit its lowest level in over 7 months to crash below $87,000. In the current bear run, over $1.3 trillion have been wiped out from the crypto market's value. Well, the market's vulnerability was revealed during forced record liquidations on October 10th. Over $19 billion worth of leveraged crypto positions were sold off, wiping out over 1.5 million trailers and entire altcoin ecosystems. Since then, the digital asset markets is not fully recovered. Margin calls, exchange-traded withdrawals and the halting of new buyer interest were all set off by the flash crash in early October. For the year, cryptos are in the red and have become the worst performing asset class. Now, from retail buyers to digital asset treasury firms, big and small investors have been hit hard by the current crash. The largest crypto plummeted to below $87,000. The next psychological thresholds lie around $85,000 and $80,000. The 2025 low of $74,425 set during April's tariff-related turbulence also remains the focus for investors. The total market cap of cryptos peaked at about $4.3 trillion on October 6th. Now it hovers below $3 trillion. Still, much of that slump reflects paper losses, not real-world cash leaving hands. Meanwhile, Ether dropped back below $3,000 after lagging Bitcoin during the first half of 2025's crypto rally. Ether eventually rose to an all-time high of almost $5,000 in August. Now, since then, the second largest token has wiped out those gains. Still, analysts bet that we have already seen the worst in the current bear market. Matthew Hugan, the Chief Investor Officer at Bitwise Asset Management, said that I think we are closer to the end of the selling than the beginning. But markets are uncomfortable and crypto could have more downside here before it finds a base to recover from. The top Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee, Senator Ron Wyden, is calling for a federal probe into whether JP Morgan Chase deliberately underreported more than $1 billion in suspicious transactions linked to Epstein. A new Senate report raises serious questions about oversight failures inside one of America's biggest banks. According to the report, the transactions spanned multiple years and included large wire transfers, international payments and accounts connected to Epstein's network. Epstein had been a client of JP Morgan until 2013, long after his 2008 sex crime conviction. Now, Wyden says the bank's internal systems flagged numerous red alerts, but many were never fully reported to federal regulators. The Senate report suggests that the bank may have filed incomplete or misleading suspicious activity reports, documents that are legally required under anti-money laundering rules. Wyden also says that this raises the question of whether JP Morgan intentionally shielded Epstein because he was a lucrative client, calling for a full Treasury Department and Justice Department investigation. Even after Epstein's conviction, records show the bank allowed transactions linked to payments to young women, offshore accounts, and private jets, activity that Wyden says should have triggered immediate federal review. JP Morgan has previously denied wrongdoing in civil cases, but has paid over $365 million in settlements related to its handling of Epstein's accounts. The bank says it regrets its association with him. Now, Wyden's finding put fresh pressure on regulators and could open the door to criminal or civil probes into whether America's biggest bank violated federal law. Tesla is rewriting its US supply chain. It has reportedly asked its suppliers to stop using China-made parts. Let's see how dependent Tesla is on Chinese components and how much this shift may cost. Well, the Wall Street Journal reports that Tesla has told suppliers to remove all China-made components from vehicles built for the US market. The switch to non-China sources is expected to be completed within 12 to 24 months. Well, Tesla relies on more than 400 Chinese Tier 1 suppliers. And over 60 suppliers also support global output. Chinese auto parts export to the US hit about $17.1 billion in 2024. Tesla accounted for around 11% of that. Around 40% of Tesla's battery material suppliers are located in China. Now, why is Tesla doing this now? The pandemic and tariff changes showed the risk of relying so much on China. Export controls on chips, rare earths, and battery materials added more pressure. And President Donald Trump's push to use American products has also influenced this shift. Reuters reported that Tesla has been moving more sourcing to North America for 2 years now. And according to the China Passenger Car Association, Tesla's China-made sales fell 9.9% in October to 61,497 units. Meanwhile, output of Model 3 and Model Y from Shanghai, including exports, dropped 32.3% from September. Moving sourcing out of China could add $1,750 to $2,300 per vehicle just for battery parts. Tesla says alternative sourcing will take time to scale up. Losing China's cost advantage means higher prices and possible delays. Now, all of this comes as US-China trade tensions escalate. On and off tariff threats and fears of rare earth shortages are making auto companies rethink their dependence on China. And Tesla is now trying to secure its future supply chain. Moving on, Moscow's crude oil shipments plunged significantly in November. And this as the US sanctions on Russian oil giants Rosneft and Lukoil kicked in on Friday. And that is according to the data from global real-time data and analytics firm Kepler. Kepler reported that between November 1st and 19th, Russia exported 706,000 billion barrels per day of crude to China. Now, that is a 39% plunge from October. Moscow's exports to Turkey fell 59% to 136,000 BPD this month. Russian oil flows to India have plunged significantly this month. They fell from 1.89 million BPD in October to an estimated 948,000 BPD so far this month. And that is a 50% slump. US sanctions on two Russian oil giants have choked Russian oil supply. Rosneft plans to pay the lowest interim dividends since the pandemic in 2020. That is due to lower crude prices, a stronger ruble, and as US sanctions bite. In October, the US Treasury Department sanctioned Russian oil giants Rosneft and Lukoil. The ban came into effect on Friday, and the US also warned that secondary penalties are being considered here. According to the latest data from Kepler, the risk is the main reason why China, Turkey, and India have cut back on Russian crude this month. Earlier this week, President Trump said he will back a Senate proposed bill to sanction Russia's trading partners, and that was the president's strongest indication of another push to strangle Moscow's funding. The bill would allow Trump to impose tariffs of up to 500% on countries that buy Russian oil. That move specifically targets major consumers of Russian energy, such as Turkey, India, and China.
They're passing legislation, or the Republicans are putting in legislation that very tough. It's sanctioning, etc., on any country doing business with Russia. They may add Iran to that, as you know. I suggested it. So any country that does business with Russia will be very severely sanctioned. We may add Iran to the formula, yeah.
US telecom giant Verizon has announced its largest ever job cut, slashing more than 13,000 positions as part of a sweeping cost overhaul. CEO Dan Schulman says that the company's current cost structure is slowing innovation and weakening its customer offering. Now, alongside the layoffs, the company will convert 179 corporate stores into franchises and shut one outlet as it moves to simplify operations. The company insists the cuts are not driven by AI, but by a need to reset and realign its business for a tougher competitive landscape. The restructuring comes as Verizon faces mounting pressure from rivals. In the latest quarter, Verizon added 44,000 postpaid subscribers, which is far behind AT&T and well below T-Mobile, which led the market with over 1 million additions. A shrinking pool of new customers, aggressive discount from competitors, and cable operators entering wireless have intensified the challenge. Verizon enters this reset with heavy financial commitments. These investments, combined with rising operational costs, have tightened financial flexibility. And to support displaced employees, Verizon has set up a $20 million career transition fund. Meanwhile, the Federal Communications Commission is moving ahead with a new C-band spectrum auction, aiming to avoid past clashes between telecom and aviation. India has one of the largest food security programs in the world. Recently, the government removed 2.25 crore ineligible beneficiaries from the free ration list. Well, the aim was to ensure that only deserving candidates are eligible for the program. But what impact does this have on the exchequer? Let's bring up the numbers. The National Food Security Act is one of the world's largest food security programs, covering about 800 million people. Consequently, the food subsidy is a significant expenditure for the Indian exchequer. The government's food subsidy allocation for the fiscal year 2024 to 25 was budgeted at approximately $22 billion. This substantial figure represents the difference between the government's economic cost of procuring, storing and distributing food grains. The inclusion of ineligible individuals severely strains the public finances. The recent deletions were targeted at beneficiaries who were found to be owning four-wheelers, having an income above the eligibility threshold, holding company directorships or being deceased. Now, based on the allocation of 5 kgs of grain per person per month and the government's economic cost of grains, the 2.25 crore ineligible names were consuming approximately 1.35 million metric tons of food grains annually. Now, by removing these ineligible names, the government has potentially prevented an annual expenditure of approximately $513 million that was previously being spent on non-genuine beneficiaries. The presence of such undeserving names leads to fiscal leakage and the diversion of subsidized food grains, which is essentially a double blow. It not only increases the total subsidy payout for individuals who do not need it, but also reduces the food security benefits available to genuinely poor households. By removing the ineligible names, the government aims to improve the scheme's overall efficiency. Now we bring you a special WION segment called Money Matters, because money does matter. Food safety officers across India are taking down drinks that use the word ORS but do not work like real ORS. Now, these are not medical products, they are just sweet drinks that can make dehydration worse, and especially for children. So what is banned? What is safe? And how can you tell the difference? Here is the full breakdown. What Food Safety and Standards Authority of India ordered? In its recent order, it has asked states to start immediate checks in stores and on e-commerce sites. Any drinks using ORS in its name that does not follow the required formulation must be removed from sale at once. Companies will face strict action for violations. Food Authority of India has also asked officers to file detailed action reports. But why these drinks are at a health risk? Now, as per the Food Authority notification, many of these drinks are heavy on sugar and do not work like real ORS. It reportedly has too much sugar that can pull water out of the body. It can even make dehydration worse instead of helping. And children under 5 are most at risk during diarrhea. Food Safety and Standard Authority of India has told officers not to touch real World Health Organization approved ORS, as it is a medicine under the Drugs and Cosmetics Act. It is also critical in treating diarrhea and must be available. The crackdown is only against food and beverage products misusing the term ORS. India uses millions of WHO-approved ORS packets every year to save lives. Diarrhea is still a major cause of child deaths in India. The Delhi High Court agreed with the ban and said that public health comes first. Commercial interests will not be given priority over safety. Jeff Bezos' space company, Blue Origin, has announced plans for a bigger and more powerful variant of its New Glenn rocket. A super heavy design meant to compete directly with SpaceX Falcon fleet and future Starship missions. This new rocket, called New Glenn 9x4, will feature more engines and produce more thrust. Well, the announcement by Blue Origin came just days after the first fully commercial mission of the original New Glenn. According to the company, the 9x4 variant of the rocket will place the company in the super heavy rocket league. The rocket will feature 9 engines on its first stage and 4 on its second, an upgrade from the current 7x2 configuration. The company described this as the next chapter in the rocket's evolution and said the iterative design means the new variant can be built quickly. Though Blue Origin has not revealed a timeline for the Super Heavy rocket's first launch, it has said that both rocket variants will operate side by side. The company said that both rockets will cater to a broad range of missions, from mega constellation satellites to lunar and deep space exploration, and even national security payloads such as the Golden Dome program. Meanwhile, other US launch companies, including SpaceX, Rocket Lab, and United Launch Alliance, are also drawing up plans for bigger, more powerful rockets that can lift more satellites into the orbit. Blue Origin CEO Dave Limp posted digital renderings of the super heavy New Glenn 9x4 on X. The renderings show the new rocket towering even above NASA's iconic Saturn V. The image also reveals a much larger payload fairing. and a rocket significantly taller than the original New Glenn design. With the 9x4, New Origin is positioned itself for a far more competitive role in the global launch market. And with that, it's time for us to slip into a very short break, but don't go anywhere. We leave you with these news in numbers. Today, we look at the top founders who were fired from their own firms. We will be back after a short break. Thank you so much for watching WION World is One.
India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RS's centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RS's centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
WION, India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime is your front row seat to darkness.
Vielleicht nur als Imposant.
Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World is One. My name is Mohammed Saleh, and let's start this broadcast by taking a quick look at what is making headlines at this hour. A Tejas fighter jet crashes during a flying demonstration at the Dubai Air Show. The Indian Air Force has confirmed that the pilot died in the crash. The Kremlin has warned Ukraine's leader Volodymyr Zelensky to enter into negotiations now or to lose more territory after the US has sent Kiev a peace proposal, heeding to many of Moscow's demands. And the mourners buried 2 Palestinian teens killed by the Israeli forces near Ramallah in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. The teenagers were killed during an overnight raid on a town near Ramallah as violence surges in the territory with a growing number of dead. The M23 rebel group says that the peace deal that it signed with the Democratic Republic of Congo government is incomplete as fighting continues in the region. The Congolese government and the M23 had signed a peace framework on the 15th of November. To stop the fighting that has killed thousands. And the Indian Prime Minister lands in South Africa for the G20 summit, and this marks his 4th official visit to South Africa following his bilateral visit in 2016 and later for the 2 BRICS summits in 2018 and 2023. And Taiwan lifts all restrictions on food imports from Japan with immediate effect. Taipei's move comes amidst a growing diplomatic spat between Tokyo and Beijing over the Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi's comments on protecting Taiwan. And volatility hits crude oil markets. Hopes of a peace deal in Ukraine sends the crude oil prices tumbling over 2%. And the Brent trades around $62 a barrel, while the US oil trades around $57 a barrel. And the American President Donald Trump posts an AI-generated video of himself very nimbly playing football with Cristiano Ronaldo inside of the White House. The clip shows Donald Trump heading the ball and then dribbling alongside the Portuguese captain. Now, the coveted fighter jet of the Indian Air Force, the HAL Tejas, has crashed during an air show in Dubai. The fighter jet crashed during a flying demonstration at the air show, sending a plume of thick black smoke over the Maktoum International Airport as the crowds looked on. And the Indian Air Force released a statement saying that the tragic accident has claimed the life of the pilot who was on board, adding that it regrets the loss of life and stands firmly with the bereaved family in this time of grief. The aircraft, which is a single-seat light combat aircraft developed by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, went down at about 2:10 p.m. local time, and the crash occurred during the biennial Dubai Air Show, one of the world's largest aviation exhibitions. The Tejas is a 4.5 generation multi-role combat aircraft that is built to perform air defense missions, offensive air support and also close combat operations, and it is noted for being one of the lightest and the smallest fighters in its class. The Tejas program is key to India's efforts to modernizing its aging fighter fleet and to reduce dependence on foreign suppliers. The first Tejas squadron, the number 45 Flying Daggers, was inducted into the IAF in 2016. The production version first soared in April 2007 with the trainer variant taking to the skies in November 2009. And the incident marks the second crash involving a Tejas aircraft in less than 2 years. In March 2024, a Tejas fighter went down in Rajasthan's Jaisalmer, the first such accident in the aircraft's 23-year history since its maiden test flight in 2001. The pilot in 2024 had ejected safely. All right, now joining us with more updates on this, we've got WION's Siddhant. Siddhant, tell us more about the circumstances that resulted in this tragic crash of the Tejas fighter jet.
Well, we are waiting for the details of this shocking incident that has happened at the Dubai Air Show, one of the largest air shows which have been regularly hosted. And now, the Indian Air Force has announced a court of inquiry, and it's after that we'll get more details. We saw the videos, the visuals that have emerged, the shock after the development, and we know that Tejas is very key to Indian Air Force's modernization. In fact, it is key for India's self-reliance in manufacturing, and we know that several units have been produced. In fact, this is the second only crash of the Tejas ever known. Last year there was a crash while training, and we know that this incident saw a tragic death of the Indian Air Force pilot as well. The Indian Air Force has extended condolences over that, but essentially we have to wait over what was the exact reason of this crash that happened in Dubai, which of course is shocking indeed, not only in terms of the incident but also in terms of the reason why this incident happened, because this was not an area of combat, this was an air show where the incident happened.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Siddhant, for joining us with all those updates. We'll of course come back to you as this story continues to develop. All right, let's now get you some breaking news that is coming, where the Indian Prime Minister arrived in South Africa for the 3-day G20 summit, and this marks his 4th official visit to South Africa, following his bilateral visit in 2016 and later for the 2 BRICS summits in 2018 and 2023. During the 3-day gathering, the Indian Prime Minister will participate in all sessions and will also present India's key priorities, including the Global South concerns, sustainable development, climate action and reforms in global governance. On the sidelines of the G20 summit, the Indian Prime Minister will also be meeting with the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and several other world leaders. He'll also participate in the India, Brazil, South Africa leaders' meetings. And our correspondent Calvin Ongu has sent us this report from Johannesburg in South Africa. Listen in.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has landed in Waterkloof Air Force Base in South Africa at around 2 p.m. South African time. He will be in Johannesburg until the 23rd, attending the G20 Leaders Summit, where the Prime Minister will put forth India's perspective on the G20 agenda. India's Ministry of External Affairs has confirmed that the Prime Minister will participate in all the 3 sessions of the summit. On the margins of the G20, Modi is expected to hold bilateral meetings with some of the leaders in Johannesburg. He's also going to participate in the India, Brazil, South Africa, which is the IPSA leaders meeting hosted by South Africa. In a statement, Modi said that he is also looking forward to interact with the Indian diaspora in South Africa, which is one of the largest outside India. This will be Modi's 4th official visit to the African nation. This is Calden Alma from Johannesburg, South Africa for WION World is One.
Now, women in South Africa are protesting to demand that gender-based violence should be declared a national disaster in a country where attacks on women have become commonplace. The protests, in fact, took place in a total of 15 different locations across South Africa, including major cities such as Cape Town, Durban and Johannesburg. And women were urged to refrain from going to work or school, wear black and lie down for 15 minutes during a certain time frame in honor of the women who were murdered in the country. The campaign began with a viral social media movement and will culminate in a nationwide shutdown ahead of the G20 summit in Johannesburg. Celebrities, citizens and nations have shown their solidarity by changing their social media profile picture to purple, a color that is often linked to awareness around gender-based violence. An online petition signed by over 1 million people called for the government to take an even tougher stance against the scourge. Well, the National Disaster Management Centre has reportedly rejected the calls to declare violence of such nature a national disaster, saying that it doesn't fall within the legal ambit. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa told the G20 Social Summit that South Africa had declared gender-based violence and femicide to be a national crisis in 2019. Now, South Africa experiences some of the world's highest levels of gender-based violence, where the rate at which women are killed are 5 times higher than the global average, according to the United Nations. Between January and March this year, nearly 137 women were murdered and more than 1,000 others were raped, according to South African crime statisticians. The Jammu and Kashmir police has expanded its probe in the Delhi Red Fort blast case. The police searched through the lockers and the premises of the doctors as well as medical staff of the Government Medical College in Handwara. They also conducted searches at other health facilities in Kupwara district as well. Now, several sections of the medical college, including the doctors' rooms, duty rooms and personal lockers, were searched. The checks in Handwara were carried out under the supervision of the station house officer. The Srinagar police also carried out some extensive inspections of car dealerships across the city. And the drive aims to prevent the misuse of vehicles for unlawful activities and to ensure that all dealers comply with safety protocols and the mandatory documentation that is required. Now, during the inspection, the police teams verified proper maintenance of stock and sales records, identity verification procedures for purchasers, compliance with security-related guidelines, validity of licenses and adherence to regulatory norms, car dealers. The State Investigation Agency of the Jammu and Kashmir Police on Thursday had conducted raids and searches at the head office of the Kashmir Times. The police say that arms and ammunition were recovered during the raids. The raid was conducted after an FIR was filed against the media house alleging its involvement in anti-national activities. And WION's Idris Lone has sent us this report on the raids conducted in Handwara. Listen in.
Security forces in Jammu and Kashmir continue to intensify the anti-terrorist operations. Jammu and Kashmir police today went to Handwara district where they carried a search operation in multiple medical institutes, including the GMC Handwara, where the lockers belonging to the doctors, students, the medical paramedic staff were checked by security forces thoroughly. The investigations we've seen continue from the last 2 weeks. Earlier, we also saw in South Kashmir's Shupian district as well as in Anantnag district, all the medical institutes were checked by Jammu and Kashmir police. They carried on search operation inside these institutes, especially checking the lockers. This also comes after Dr. Adil Rathur's one weapon was found in GMC Anantnag. After that, we've seen how security forces are trying to dismantle the terror networks active in Jammu and Kashmir and also make sure that the terror networks that are working across are completely dismantled. With video journalist Firoz, Idris Lone for WION World is One.
The Gujarat ATS says that it has found some new CCTV footage of the recent terror plot accused, Dr. Ahmed Saeed. The footage appears to be from a day before he was arrested on the 7th of November by the Gujarat ATS in Ahmedabad. The footage shows Saeed walking out of the Hotel Grand Ambience in Ahmedabad, and investigators say that he was allegedly on his way to collect the weapons. This new lead has helped the authorities to widen the probe in terms of his location visits, people that he had met and all the planning process. Saeed, who was part of a 3-member gang arrested on charges of conspiring to carry out subversive activities, went to Gujarat from Hyderabad after informing his family that he was travelling there for work. The investigators say that Saeed was radicalized on social media and was also actively posting subversive literature related to terror activities on Telegram. The reports say that he was allegedly radicalizing several people via Telegram. And our correspondent Disha Shah has sent us this report. Listen in.
Well, that is right. The Gujarat ATS has got hold of a very important CCTV footage of November 7th, a day before they arrested 3 accused terrorists who were plotting terror attacks across the country. Out of that, one CCTV footage has come to light where one of the accused, Dr. Ahmed Said, is seen coming out and walking out of a hotel premises in the Ahmedabad city of Gujarat. Clearly, according to the investigators, he was going to meet the second accused arrested to collect weapons. Remember, they were planning to carry out mass attacks across the country, and they had also got hold of some weapons. So that is what the investigators are investigating at this point in time. Secondly, this will really help them to jot all the timeline and the pieces together to find that what exactly these 3 terrorists were doing in the city before carrying out such mass attacks. They are also questioning the hotel staff as to for how long he was staying there, if there was anybody who came to visit him during this time period. And they are also checking the CCTV footage of that particular area as to where else he visited during that period in time. This is Isha Shah reporting here for WION from Mumbai.
At least about 6 people, including a child, have been killed.